Hey everybody, welcome. We're going to jump right into a breakdown of the men's 2020 NCAA Cross Country Championships, starting off right at the start of the race. Surprisingly enough, and as many of you know, this was a very weird championship taking place in March, only a few days after the indoor championship had concluded. So a few teams had doubled up, but notable omissions are Oregon and a lot of other track-heavy teams that tried to go for the indoor championships there. While BYU and NAU and Notre Dame and the such are here just really trying for the team title in cross country. The course is beautiful, but as they're talking about right now, all Bermuda grass super fast, and the first 2K is downhill to flat. So some of the splits that you're going to be seeing here, especially with Wesley Kiptoo in the race, are absolutely ridiculous. We're going to let it go a little bit and fast forward, but as you can see, NAU in black and BYU in the white with blue shoulders is going out super quick. Man in Charlotte and the Notre Dame men off to the left, as well as Ehab and Alex Masai in the middle right, also off to a fantastic start. We're going to take a quick look at the case split because this is something that you might not ever see in another NCAA championship, depending on the weather in Florida in a few days. 230 flat. 230 flat through the 1K. Now, if you look at these regional races that these men ran like 8 days prior to this, people do not go through very fast. They average 3:05 in some regions for the first 5K, 6K until somebody decides to break it apart and make a move for those individual spots. 2:30 is a world of a difference. Absolutely crazy. So they'll talk about it coming up here, but Mance decides to lay off a tiny bit of Kiptoo because of how he's concerned of the team race. BYU goes through with 71 points, and we will soon see how this becomes a quick issue. Northern Arizona a little bit back, about 50 back, and Notre Dame sitting pretty, 25 behind BYU. Alright, bringing it up closer to 2K, of course, you have Kiptoo still leading. I'm very excited to see him in this Florida course. I think that it's going to go right out like this too, except obviously right now Mance is stinging, but he's not going to get any reprieve. It's going to take till 4.5K in Florida, 4K, for them to hit a hill. It's ridiculous. And considering how quick and windy it is, even for a wide course, it's going to be absolutely fantastic to watch. So this is where you see stuff happening. Bosley and Brody made their way up for Northern Arizona, just jumped up. And honestly, that's all they needed because they currently have 4 in the top 9. Absolutely crazy, and this is one of the cooler team races in a while because of how stuffed the top 20 was with the top 3 teams. So here's the side-by-side breakdown. Hasty in 73rd, way behind Troutner, is, well, 3.5 seconds behind Troutner is the only reason there's any big gap there. But here goes Kiptoo, pulling away a little bit, and bridging the gap to Mance is Alex Masai. So we get to talk about Alex a little bit later, but I'm going to finish talking about the OSU course at first. So when you look back at this course, it's kind of impressive because I'm pretty sure the same exact loops, or majority the same exact loops. There was a course, and it was like 5 meters wide. Really interesting, a little sandy and like gross in some bits, some weird step ups, like bad footing. But it was a really like windy, hilly course for Oklahoma, and we think of the South as having those USA courses, not very cross country at all. But as you saw right there, 2.5K in, you start winding and dipping, and this is the huge uphill. So Masai just dumped a lot of energy into catching up with Kiptoo on this because he wants to be in the race for the win here. Truly impressive, but this is probably one of the worst hills on the course, maybe top 2, I think. And this is the little horseshoe that comes out into the main field, and it's a really there are two of these, and they're really good at telling where they are. And honestly, it's hard to tell how downhill this is, but if you see this, it looked like it flattened out, and Mance behind is still flailing. Only now is he starting to drive a little bit more because, well, lo and behold, they have to go straight back uphill, and they're crossing 3K in 8:15. If we want to translate this back, that's a minute faster than about half the regions will have run the week before. Truly crazy. But this course used to be 5-10 meters wide, and they just basically rolled in with bulldozers, laid down Bermuda grass, and treated it super nicely for like a year and a half, 2 years, and now it's gorgeous. Like we have cookie cutter courses in the United States after the success of Terre Haute. We had some issues when the new courses are popping up and they're just grassy and lifeless and wide open. Unlike Terre Haute, which as the original, it's like Camden Yards. They actually did that stuff right there. Wisconsin's done it right, but if you've seen some of the Midwest courses that are popping up, then you know the problems I'm talking about. But this is hilly, truly an impressive course, and like incredibly defeating for like how fast the footing is. The hills are just brutal. So right now we have Kiptu and Masai, 3.5K or so in, just rolling out front, and they're coming downhill for the second loop through, and there you see rolling hills once again. So to take a quick departure in a story, Alex Masai I've run against many, many times. Was a man in conference, and honestly, I did run against him, but about halfway in every single race, as you see Mance and Will the Shoot getting gapped here, and the NAU guys running as a fantastic pack, with Notre Dame right on their heels. The really impressive thing about Alex Masai is he would just lay it down the second half of every race, and looking at stuff like this, it's obvious, but you had no clue what to think about him. He's not in a normal recruited school like Alabama. He went to Hofstra, that does not usually recruit internationally. He has an Olympian brother, which is usually a little bit of a tell, but he's much older than him, and Alex could only show up on the regional level, and he'd do so time after time. He had a few great years there, but this is his real coming out party. And it's sad. We'll see what happens to him a little bit later in the race, but all is good now. He's running with NEU Elite, and I think he's going to have a big part in turning that team around. 10K and half marathon is going to be an absolute fire from him. But we're going to see the 4K splits right now before I start jumping ahead a lot more. So here we are, Northern Arizona with 41 points. This is truly dominant, and this is when Bosley really tightened it up out back. See, he isn't even outside of the top 40 right now. Yeah, 27th for Bosley. Crazy. And honestly, considering they lost Gralva and Faro, they need Bosley to pull this out this upcoming weekend. But that is another video entirely. Flash forward to our 5K, we cross at 14:10, 14:13. Not shocking for a Kip2 race, but absolutely incredible. They don't run this in a negative split. No way, no how. And this is Kip2's desperation move. So he still is on a pretty flat portion of the course. Obviously, Arizona dropped behind Notre Dame here because if you guys remember, Abdi Nur had a chip malfunction at one of the crossing mats, so we were freaking out at this point. Truly crazy. But Kip2 crosses, fast 6K, Masai in second, Will the Shoot Mance. This is how the top four should have finished, but we'll see, and we know what happens. NAU, huge pack right behind. Incredibly impressive. We didn't know what shape Blaze Pharaoh was in. We didn't know if Nico could actually pull this together, let alone Abdi just hopping out of it, and Grijalva, like, he has to move up to 10K. We remember he's a 1500 3K guy mainly. But I love this top four group. This is such a good run. When you get closer to 7K, they start to roll and they start to go downhill. So here it is. BYU got demolished on their back two spots. Klinger 15th. Yeah, that's fine. But the rest of them get absolutely destroyed. Uh, they've not looked too great this year either, except for the regional championship where they were super tight in their 3-4-5. So I'm hoping to see if they can bring this again. Here's the horseshoe right again, and this is when Masai starts to get exploded. Really sad moment for me. I've seen this guy next to me in races, like cheering on his teammates, trying to pull them together for a win. Just stand-up guy. Truly, truly fantastic. These three up front actually get to face off once again on Wilderschut's home course, and it's going to be very, very interesting. So here you see Blaze right off of injury pulling away in 5th place, but this is crazy because I thought it was going to end like this, but we've never seen a race blow up at 5K like this in a long, long time at least. So I thought Blaze could have nipped, what, 4 or 5, but there's a lot to go in this race. You see an Olympian struggling there in 10th. Absolutely absurd. Rodriguez moved up to 9th here, ends up dropping back a little bit, but honestly, I expect him to do better at a flatter, faster course, even though he's been top 15 all 3 years he's been in college. But the NAU guys up front, him completely unmatched, let alone Notre Dame is running the best team race probably to ever get second in the last 25 years. I can't believe they came into this ranked second. It's funny, but it shows you how even Notre Dame, who's coming back with all 6 other guys ranked 4th for 2021, could pull this thing out. This is a complete turn of the cards from last year, where BYU totally upset Northern Arizona. Super deep green. They're doing so well together. It's truly impressive. Green, green. There's 4, I think. 5, yep. Oklahoma State did amazing, and they're getting trounced by the 5th runner. And there he goes on the hill. So this is 9K. Like we have way less to go than you realize, because we're almost near the front field at this point. So there's one little rise up to the front field, and it's a blister of a downhill. There we go. Front field, turn onto the straightaway, humongous gap. This is one of the most impressive last kilometers, miles I've ever seen. Everybody was so destroyed, and Mance just gutted this out so impressively. Like this is pure pain. Listen, they went out in low 14. They finish over 15 minutes. You don't see elite guys do that very often. It's very commonly the other way around. Like I said, way slower time than we expect to see this year. But absolutely incredible from Connor Mance. Most of this field's over 30 minutes. If you see that in Florida, I'll bite my tongue, but truly, truly impressive. There we go, Wilderschut for second. Can he grab it this year on his home course? Kip 2, honestly, this is incredibly impressive for having blown up. So, good on Kip 2. 1, NAU. 2, Blaze in 6th. Abdi, 7th, 9th, Luis, right after Rodriguez. 1st for Notre Dame, and that's impressive. You normally have so many singles up there. BYU, finally, there's Casey. You know they're destroyed at this point. All of Notre Dame, 4 people straight together. And here you see in the background, upper right-hand corner, Masai struggling, and oh, he might have not even made it into, or barely made it in to All-American. But you know that's past us now. We've seen his 10K in outdoor track, and that shows what type of athlete he is. There's Bosley. There's Brody Hasty. That's lock and key, but they're going to need Bosley and Hasty to have a way better race this year with 2 of their best runners missing. It's I trust Young, I trust Nur, but if they don't find their 4-5 real well, and if the middle distance runner Kush can't step up to 10K, although they had him wait out this first regional 10K, It's going to be scary, but men's and women's side for this 2021 race coming up is going to be very exciting. So there we go. Preliminary scores. Devers in fifth, showing what he has to come. Absolute wipe by the NAU guys. Like you don't see this in track. Like this is guts, glory, and like knowing that you have to run for a team. Incredibly impressive. Will the shoot second, like I said, and you will not see an 87. Let alone if this NAU team didn't exist, that score is in like the 60s. You'll not see an 87 lose very often. I think the average win is like 95. And the top three teams on this podium, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Northern Arizona, they're who's going to be fighting this upcoming year. So this is incredibly exciting sign of what's to come. Uh, for right after the March Indoor Championships, you couldn't have asked for much better than this. Once again, we can review on the screen, but Northern Arizona, Notre Dame, BYU. They actually did clutch it out, but you had to wait for that 65th spot to come in. Oh, look at that. I mean, we know Notre Dame's the deepest team here by far. I mean, everybody else is falling off incredibly compared to their top five when you hit 6, 7, even 5 for BYU. So, looking forward to seeing this. Oh, sorry. Let's take that to the finish. BYU destroyed in the second half, 70, 102, 108. Need to make up for that. Oklahoma State brought it home really, really hard. But Mayer, Rodriguez, and Smeeden are going to need to bring it together for them. Northern Arizona, Ryan Raff ran a really, really good regional. Bosley and Hasty need to step up. Like, they must do better than this because they only have Nico and Abdi returning. And considering how deep this field is, they could get pushed out of the top 10 if they're not on their A game. Look at what happened to Tyler Day and Matt a few years ago when they had to race in Wisconsin after their big outing in Louisville. So the craziest thing about this is on an off day, or if you messed up your workouts going into this as a coach, it can end in an instant. So I'm really excited. I still have the feeling of NAU considering their depth and the way that they approach these championship races. Like, they didn't need the regional to prove that they were going to do well, and it's so much easier to run well if when you didn't put in something big. Even if BYU, even if Oklahoma didn't feel like they put something big in, they did. And I mean, Notre Dame would have had to make a big step up from early season, but obviously they did that this year, and they can do it again. So I'm looking forward to that race. See everybody later.